Hi, welcome back. We're still going live in the Science Center in Munich at the Global Alumni Reunion of IESE Business School, brought to you by our sponsors, Banco Sabadell, CaixaBank, and Steelcase. If you're just joining the program, we've just finished block 2 of the academic program. I thought it was amazing. If you haven't seen it yet because of time change or whatever is going on in your life, I would urge you to connect and watch it on the streaming platform. We had Jürgen Muller, he's the Chief Technology Officer of SAP, being interviewed by Samsa Semela. He talked about every company being an AI company and really the need for companies to figure out which part of this AI revolution they need to do themselves, which part they could do with partners. He also talked about how he thought all executives needed to get some reasonable proficiency about this, not to be mathematicians maybe, but at least understand what's important. And he thought what's important was that people have the skills to apply this stuff, that we get the data, and that we find a way to harness our creativity to reimagine business using AI technology. And then there was another session chaired by my colleague Nuria Mas. We had Dr. Matthias Goyen and Dr. Nuria Oliver talking about the applications of the technology in healthcare, and there were lots of them. Scanning and building digital twins of people, et cetera, et cetera. But then that conversation really got into the putting humans at the center of AI and kind of the issues between that. Dr. Goyer talked about the metaphor of the pilots. We have automatic airplanes and we have flight controllers and all this, but we still like to have pilots in the plane. And when things happen, we like to have the pilot who's able to land the plane or to deal with an emergency, like Captain Scully did in the Hudson River so many years ago. And Nuria talked about the importance of maintaining our ability for critical thinking and relationships and emotional intelligence as we need to educate people about using the new technology. So I thought that was an amazing session. Now the next academic session will come up in about an hour, and in that we're going to have a whole bunch of interesting stuff. Before that, we have a special interview with Maria Rios and another interview with Samsa Semela. But before that, Mallory, what am I forgetting?
You're forgetting social media.
Of course, of course. In fact, Dr. Matthias Goyen talked about the need for TQ, or technical, not IQ or EQ, but technical ability. I don't think I have very much.
I'm sure you do. You can always learn. Everyone can always learn. So as Mike said, remember, you can share your insights on social media. You can tag us at IESE Business School on LinkedIn, on Instagram and Twitter. And remember to use our hashtag for this event, which is hashtag IESEGAR. That's hashtag IESEGAR.
And Mallory, I think we also have people joining us now from Instagram, is that right?
We do. We now are joining people from Instagram Live, which is great. And also remember that you can register online on our CVent platform, so you can attend the next sessions that are coming up, the academic sessions that will start after this brief pause.
So let's go to an interview with Maria Rios. I think we have Billy on the scene. Billy Gray is out there with Maria. Maria is the head of our Alumni Association on behalf of IESE Business School. Billy, are you there?
Thanks, Mike and Mallory, and welcome to our viewers again. I'm standing here with Maria Rios. Maria is the IESE Alumni and Institutional Development Director. She's been working at IESE for 22 years, and now oversees basically all of the services for the over 50,000 IESE alumni in over 120 countries in the world. Maria, thank you for being here.
Thanks to you, Bill. It's a pleasure to have all alumni and also all the teams here for this annual stellar event.
Absolutely, and thank you for making it happen. So speaking of this event, we've mentioned that we have almost around 4,000 people participating online or here in Munich. Can you tell us a little bit, Maria, what's special about having a hybrid event?
Well, that is not an exception. I think we all learned due to the pandemic how we could incorporate technology in our lives, And now it's the time to be back and balance, We are human beings, and that was good during that time 2 years ago to be connected. That was the only thing we could do. But at IESE, I think we always learn, and our mission is the togetherness, how we can really have the impact as human beings. So I think the hybrid format is giving us the best of these two worlds. No, it's not only those that are connected, you mentioned it's more than 4,000 connected, as well as those that can just allocate in their agendas. But with this spread community, it's always an advantage. Last year also we learned, even there was a special restrictions still with the pandemic, but you remember that, Bill? We had 2,000 people presentially with all COVID protocols, but also more than 5,000 connected. So that's the important thing, how we can combine and adapt to all alumni agendas, no matter where they are from, right?
And as you mentioned, this is the first Global Alumni Reunion in the COVID era to take place without restrictions. How has that affected the event? Do you feel a sense of excitement among the attendees?
Absolutely. I mean, we had just a few months ago the Affairs Minister of Digital Affairs, and she precisely mentioned, being the digital affairs, she just stressed the need of us to interact, as social human beings. In here I saw the excitement, there's people that are reuniting together, and we have not only this, also around the city, other activities. We were discussing a bike tour. Just 2 years ago, we simply could not go by bike, not all together. So it's really how we can be back, and this GAR was reoriented to recover all these social activities. Not only learning, it's not only academic program, we have fantastic, stellar speakers, but also how we can just really interact. Now there's people having lunch, being on a dinner tonight to enjoy about the Bavarian culture, etc. We simply cannot do that only connected at home, so we are not learning, we are not interacting.
That's a great point. And another great thing, an advantage of being in person is, and this is an annual event at the GAR, the company visits. So yesterday, attendees got to pay visits to several leading companies, really big names in the Munich area. Tell us a little bit about those company visits from yesterday.
Well, all I have to say is first the generosity of these companies to help us and receive us on these different companies. So we, from the beginning, thought how we can just really do a 360 Bavarian immersion. And that was part of the plan, this visit. So we had BMW with VIP visits that they show the factories that, in fact, not many people have access to. Also with Microsoft, Allianz, Work One, because maybe you don't know, but here is a place also mentioned by the minister about entrepreneurship. So we had the pleasure to be interacting with, in fact, alumni who are just building companies here in this Bavarian area. So the government also is very committed how this new talent can be incorporated. Also with Flexibus, and with interaction not only with the alumni in companies, also with faculty, offering discussions, offering workshops. So I think it was exciting because there's how we can make this program live all over these 3 days.
Fantastic. And I know they were a huge success. Heard a lot of alumni really raving about those visits. Now we're here right in the thick of the academic program. The topic this year is AI, artificial intelligence. Do you have anything, what can the viewers online and I suppose here look forward to during the academic program and what's left of it?
Well, the idea from the beginning of this program is not offering technical conferences that you can always YouTube, see content on demand. Is really how we can just focus that on really the power for good. So that was mentioned also with our speakers, is this consideration how we can embrace technology, but also remembering that we have a real intelligence, the human intelligence. It's all the reflections around these different conferences, as well as IESE that probably you know, Bill, we initiated a transversal reflection with our faculty involved about, yes, technology is here to stay, has many advantages, and in here is a question of the yin-yang, people that really are embracing fully the technology, others that see that as a fears, and how we can really learn and incorporate that, but do not forgetting that the base are humans, how we can make that as really a competitive advantage in our businesses, adapt organizations, taking the best of it, and that you need first the information, you need first to know about that, and then transform, evolve. But definitely here technology and this speed is here to stay. That's part of the reflections we have that here with experts. Also, not only technicians, so people that are philosophers, people that are really considering how maybe with the computing new era, we have to really think about algorithms in a different way.
Very good. We have to go back to set soon, but before that, I'm just wondering, we're still enjoying Munich and what's left of the day here. Can you give us a little preview of what's to come next year at the 2023 GAR?
That's really top secret. So the only thing I can say to you is you have to come. So with the hybrid, that will be, what I can anticipate will be in Barcelona with a very different format because we are continuously innovating. Last year was a full innovation. As you know, you were part of that. This year also is innovative. Next year will be only not the topic, but also the way we want to embrace people with this concept of togetherness. For us, I think it's our competitive advantage. And then taking the best of the technology, of course. So I'm formally inviting you, those connected that this year couldn't make it, to be in Barcelona 16 to 18 November 2023.
Thank you, and we won't let you forget about that. We'll keep reminding you. Maria, thank you so much.
Thanks to you,
We
Bill.
appreciate it.
And all the teams and all connected, please do not disconnect, that it's more to come. And being a woman now this afternoon is all women that are expert on artificial intelligence and computing connected. So please do not forget to reconnect us after lunch. Thank you.
Fantastic, thanks again. And now back to set with Mike and Mallory.
Thanks, Billy, thanks, Maria, and thanks for that great teaser for what's to come at the next GAR. But let's get back to AI, this topic we're exploring all day. And now we're going to explore a bit more in depth the role of managers. How is that role being changed and impacted by the AI revolution? We're going to hear now from Professor Samsa Simila, who's Academic Director of the Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Management Initiative here at IESE. So he's been working on this topic for years. He's going to discuss a bit the role of managers and how they can transform companies with AI, and also what skills managers need now. Let's go to a quick video where he'll explain some of this.
Transforming the company with AI means that we can design new kinds of business models, new sources of competitive advantage, but that implies then that we have to also reorganize the company. We have to transform its operations, its organizational structures, processes, even its culture. And that means that the core people are the managers, the key people who have to lead this transformation are specifically the managers. It's not the technologists, it's not the programmers or even the engineers, it's the managers. The skills that managers will need in order to lead and be successful in this transformation are on one hand related to understanding the technology and its economic properties. You have to be able to understand how AI then works and what are its economic properties, how does it scale, what does the cost curves and learning curves look like, and so on. That is not a task that can eventually be delegated to some business translator or otherwise who happens to be between the managers and the technologists. That might need to be a short-term solution, but in the end, the managers have to be able to understand the technology that underlies the core processes of their organization and their business model. Second, you have to understand how those algorithms learn and develop, so you have to understand learning strategy. How do you collect, develop, and exploit data? And on the other hand, they have to understand how do you organize organizational processes when the core aspects of your process can be updated at the push of a button when you retrain your model. That optimization is in the algorithm. You do not need to retrain lots of individuals, change sort of fundamentally structures. Once that algorithm is in place, what you're able to do is scale your operations at a completely different level than if you relied on human expertise only. Third, the human work is going to be more flexible, more creative. A lot of the routines move to the algorithms, and the key value aspects for the humans is to be creative, be flexible, develop algorithms, run experiments. So that implies that the managers, the leaders of those organizations have to be able to be effective at motivating employees, inspiring them, building culture, give inspiration to individuals who are no longer being motivated by career advancements in hierarchies, but are being motivated by wanting to do good, wanting to advance, wanting to learn new things, and simply by creativity.
So we're back on the set. It's my pleasure to welcome Philip Sahil on the TV program. You've already been upstairs on the stage, and Samsa Simala has come back. Samsa, again, is the academic director of our AI for Business Executives program at IESE Business School. Philip, let me just start with you. I just got a few questions, and if I recall, the motto of Yokoi, your company, is "The future is simple." Now, in your interview upstairs, you talked about, raising $100 million and getting your AI team having, customers and double-digit millions of revenue. Was it so simple? How did you getting from the guy who found the problem to actually having a company and being where you are today?
Yeah, first of all, thanks a lot for having me. No, it was not that simple. The future is simple. It is more for our customers. At least it's for our customers. It should be simple. No, I mean, starting out, especially in such an environment where we are selling to mid-sized and bigger enterprise customers. And mid-sized or bigger enterprise customers, typically, they don't want to be first movers. Especially not for such a critical process like accounts payable. You need to be able to pay your invoices, reimburse your expenses. If you don't pay your invoices, you might not get your raw material delivered.
How did you get the first customer? Because I guess others will come if there's some evidence, but you got to get someone to try it, right?
And the first 5 to 10 customers are the most difficult ones.
What they call crossing the chasm, right? In the famous book.
Yeah. So the first ones are I mean, I was a CFO myself before, and the first ones do come out of your network. You get other CFOs excited about an idea, and you tell them, you will be one of the first ones, so you help us basically develop that and give us instant feedback. Because you don't want to develop a product for a customer. You want to do it together with the customer. Because otherwise you get the feedback too late when you've already built it, and then you need to go and adjust. You want to get the feedback real time. That's why the first customers are always not friends and family.
Phil, I read you have 4 co-founders. It's 5 folks putting the company together. Is that?
That's one of the strengths.
Is there a logic to that? Is there?
So yes, we have 5 very complementary skills: marketing, sales, technology, finance, and myself.
Okay. No more questions on that front. You talked about customers. What is the business case for your customers? Samson knows this. I'm a little bit concerned about the dark side of AI. Is the business case that you're going to be able to fire, 50 people in your accounts payable department? Is that the story?
No. I mean, you still need the experts.
You will fire 50 people if you implement this stuff.
You will not. You will not. Because mostly, I mean, where you need the experts still is with all the outliers and exceptions. That's still there. I mean, the 5 to 20%, depending on where you are in the journey, of outliers and exceptions, we are giving out. We say, we could not validate this. You still need to have a manual look at that. And that's the heavy job. I mean, there you need the experts in accounting and tax to really make sure that those exceptions are correctly booked. We get the job of the kind of like the stuff that is still extremely manual and repetitive. That's what we get automated.
Okay, so the low-level people, we don't need them anymore, but we still need the high-level people.
It's mostly...
Or do we need to retrain the low-level people to become high-level people?
No. Think of a manager. A manager needs to approve probably 500 expenses or invoice or whatever a day. And that's really not the job of the manager, or at least not the main job of the manager. Every manager will be really, really happy to only do 3 a day, but really the relevant ones, and all the rest they don't have to do in the evening or the weekends anymore. So it's not, I mean, you're not going to save a lot of cost on people you're getting rid of. You're automating a process that you're putting into the hands of the employees and the managers that will still be there, but they can focus on their job and not do what distracts them.
And if someone does take 7 cups of coffee a day, too bad for them, right? Because
too bad for them. You might have to pay the 6th and 7th one yourself.
Phil, last question for you before I go to Samsa Samela. You saw a problem, you found a problem, you got the team together and launched a company, and it's what advice would you give to other people who also see a problem, who also think that maybe AI could be a solution for it, and want to move on with this?
Yes. So, I mean, you cannot do it yourself. On your own, you will most likely not be able to pull it off. You need the right partners, you need the right team members. maybe you need 4 co-founders, but with the right team and the right first customers that believe in you, that help you, you can pull it off. And I mean, probably the greatest advice I can give is try it. Get together a team that is hugely motivated, that's complementary. I'm not the technology expert here. I now know quite something about AI because I'm talking to customers and prospects on a daily basis, but get the right AI expert in to help you shape that. Get the right person from the business side in or from the sales side, and then together with them, build it up.
And give them all some shares so they actually, you know.
And incentivize appropriately, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Samson Samela, skills and jobs. Because we've had a lot of conversation. Our last speakers upstairs were talking about skills and jobs. Phil was talking about that. You've been talking about that. Are skills and jobs the same thing? Are they different things? Can you help us understand that?
Skills and jobs are clearly 2 different things. So every job requires a portfolio of skills. Every job has a portfolio of tasks. And so there's when we think of AI models are very specific. Like this model is about processing invoices. Those managers who process invoices have a whole lot of different tasks, not just this one. And so what AI is doing is automating tasks, not jobs at this point. What we're seeing is sort of very large increases in efficiency in processing certain tasks, which means that the jobs are going to change because some tasks are getting automated, becoming more efficient. So the content of the job, of the occupation is going to change, but very few are going to be fully replaced.
Now, that's kind of at the micro level. If we blow that up to the company level, you've spoken about changing corporate architecture because of AI technology. Could you amplify a little bit what do you mean by changing corporate architecture?
That's a really, really important topic to think about, because AI, if you move to AI-driven processes, those processes have very different scaling properties and other properties than by doing it by human experts. And so if you're doing models that can run autonomously or that can be updated very easily, improved over time, your human workforce has to do very different tasks. You are coordinating the models, you're building models. Your human workforce has to be more agile, more flexible, and focus on developing models. While the models then run some of the routine operations, the humans do more project intense work and then move to other projects and sort of more creative, flexible work.
Now you were interviewing Jürgen Muller from SAP. He said that you know there are some things a company should probably do themselves, and there are other things that should probably get someone else to do. And of course, Phil's company is saying, "I'll do your accounts payable. Thank you very much." Yeah. How do you see this topic? And then I'll go to both of you on the same question. But what should companies say? Hey, we need our own people, our own data scientists, and what can they look for companies like Yorkoi to say, hey, just take this off my hands, please?
Excellent question, very good question. Because you know, like we talked earlier today, AI can be really applied across all processes of the company, all functions. And so you have to understand which are the core functions that actually help you differentiate, and which ones are sort of simply things that you have to get done. Now, accounts payable, every company has to do it. If you want to get paid, you have to do it. However, very few companies can differentiate based on that, and so that is something that is best left for outside experts who have the expertise, the scale, and the ability to execute that reliably and well. Then when we go into things that are sort of more customer-facing, developing you know, your core products and your core competitive advantage, that's where you need to develop your own talent, your own expertise.
So the secret is to really understand what is your unique value proposition, what is your competitive advantage, do that yourself, and maybe somebody else can. Now, in the world of AI, what is your gut, what does your feeling tell you? Where is that secret sauce probably going to be?
So again, excellent. So this is exactly right, and this is why I keep saying that this is a task for managers, not for the technology people, because it's the managers who understand where that secret source is going to be. And in our earlier discussion, we were leaning towards it being with the customer data, understanding customer needs, and being able to sort of start using the data from customer behavior, customer needs, to then fill through the rest of the organization, let that data flow, let it optimize, use that data to optimize your operations, your logistics, and everything else. Ultimately, a product design even.
So here's a question for both of you, and maybe Phil, you can start, and then Samsa fill in. Accounts payable seems pretty clear. If Yokoi were to go into another business area, and I'm not asking you to give any secrets away, what do you see as the next big thing which is ripe for application of AI, getting people to do it, outsourcing it, and moving ahead? What would you say would be the next couple of big areas like accounts payable? Would you stay in the finance world or go to human resources? And then the same question to Samsa, where do you see the biggest opportunity for entrepreneurs maybe?
Yeah, I would stay in the finance world because it's the only one I know. No, I mean, as an accounts payable automation tool, you're in an ecosystem of travel tools, for instance, of procurement tools, of ERP tools to which you connect to. And at the moment, we do see a lot of movement in the procurement side. We are not going into procurement. That's no secret. We're really staying.
Never say never, right?
That is true, But for the time being, we're really staying in the accounts payable stuff. But I mean, in procurement, we see a lot going on at the moment. Also in the ERP side, travel a bit less because travel is still heavily dependent on actually flights and stuff like that. So, I mean, it is probably going on everywhere, but where I see it the most is certainly in the procurement space, and where a big step is being made at the moment.
By the way, before I get to Samsa, did I understand properly that you can only get Yokoi if you're using a Microsoft ERP system?
No, you can also use it if you're using an SAP.
Oh, okay. So there's a couple of different players. You're in the micro. So it depends. You have to have a scale, a well-built ERP system in order to plug in the Yokoi software.
Absolutely. We're not doing the accounting part. The outcome of Yokoi is basically the correct booking sentence with the archiving, attachment, all of that in the ERP system.
Okay. So you're connecting to the ERP systems which are out there.
Correct.
As a module to add on to that.
Correct, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more to what was said before. I mean, no company in the world will go out and say, I'm going to be winning in the market because I have the best accounts payable tool. And that's just not happening.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe the Yokoi customers. No, but it's really, you need to make sure that your unique differentiator, that's what you build in-house. That's what you do yourself, because you don't want to share that. But with administration and especially tasks like accounts payable, you want to make sure that you leverage data also from others. And what we're doing is our AI models, they learn on an anonymized basis over all customers in order for them to make it more efficient. So I completely agree with that point.
Samsa, where do you see other pockets where someone could do a Yokoi, where someone could penetrate and get some good business? And
so we're seeing it again sort of across the spectrum. Finance is of course a key area, but we're starting to see applications in HR management, sort of managing employee skill development. There's lots of outsourcing of recruitment process data and so on. So we do see HR as another big one.
HR, any specific applications? I mean,
so there's a range
because HR, there's payroll, there's comp and spends, and then there's employee evaluation, which gets kind of scary for me.
There's everything from pre-screening applications to sort of, and increasingly interestingly, sort of giving people insights into potential career tracks in the company. So larger companies are building tools to help people understand what kind of skills they need in order to move to different positions in the company, sort of, forecasting and helping you plan your career.
But the whole HR thing, especially screening applications and stuff, that brings in this whole question of bias. Because if the data we feed the AI is based upon a bunch of people making decisions with their own biases, we will bake those biases into the AI for the rest of time. Is that correct?
That's an absolutely key concern in sort of, especially HR. All kinds of biases can sneak in based on the data that you use. And this is where, there are different methods of collecting data. There are methods of removing bias from data. But this is also where you would not run it autonomously. This is where you really need to be careful, and it could be a pre-screening tool, and it could be sort of tool to help you, not automate, in particular because of these concerns.
Samsa Samila, Phil, thank you so much for joining us here on the set. We appreciate you being here in Munich, Phil especially, and good luck with Yokoi.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to go back to Billy, and Billy has two alumni from the Global Executive MBA. I think I know both of them pretty well. Billy, are you ready?
Thank you, Mike, and welcome back, everyone. This is a special year for IESE. The Gemba program is celebrating its 20th anniversary. That's the Global Executive MBA. And for this year's Global Alumni Reunion, a bunch of alumni from that very first Gemba class, celebrating their own 20th anniversary, decided to have a little mini reunion of their own. I'm here with two of those alums, Manuel Montoya from Monterrey, Mexico, who traveled all the way from Mexico to Munich, and Stephen Hickson, who traveled all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, in the US. So I would say that's a testament to the program and the bonds that it forged between its participants. Manuel, I'll start with you. Can you tell us when the idea for this class reunion started, and what was the inspiration for it?
Well, I think it was back in May or June that we received the invitation from IESE, and there will be a special event for us, the Gemba people, and specifically for us that we complete 20 years of have finished the program. So at that time I decided to come. I planned everything. So because I had other things to do here in Europe, so I planned accordingly, and I was able to do it, and I'm here. Very happy to join the GAR.
Very good. And for both of you, is this your first time attending a Global Alumni Reunion? Manuel, you first.
Well, no, the second time I went to London some years ago, but maybe 10, 12 years ago I went to that GAR, and I'm very happy to come here again.
Very good. And Stephen, how about you?
Yeah, I've been able to attend a few of the GARs. Fortunately, we've had, I think, 2 in New York since I graduated, and I've made it back to Barcelona a couple times. But obviously, with the pandemic, this is the first time I've been able to travel in a while. So very happy to be back out again and be able to come to Germany.
Yeah, that's a good thing for all of us here, to just be back in person without restrictions, getting over the past couple of very tough years. Looking back 20 years now, Stephen, could you tell us a little bit about your experience in the program? Favorite professor, what you learned, and how it helped sort of shape your career?
It was an amazing experience. I mean, I think for me, the highlight was going to Shanghai. I'd never been to Asia before, and actually ended up meeting my wife there, so that was a big plus from the program. And I've just used everything in the program throughout my career and my life. I mean, it was such a broad experience, and getting to be around people from we had 18 people in our class and from 11 different countries. So it was just such an incredible learning experience outside of the classroom. And that's what I think the real benefit of the program is. It's, broad-based and very international.
Very good. And Manuel, would you agree with that? And would you recommend someone who's maybe considering doing this program to take the plunge and get into it?
Yeah, yes, I think in my case, it helped me in two things: to have a more strategic thinking, like any MBA, but it's a very internationalized program. So you are able to open your mind to see other cultures, to share your culture, and that really helps you a lot in the next steps of your professional career.
Very good. Now, in addition to reuniting with friends and old classmates, there's a packed academic program this year at the GAR. The topic is artificial intelligence. What have you guys enjoyed the most about the program so far, or what are you looking forward to? Manuel, you first.
Yeah, well, I think the program this year is very interesting. Artificial intelligence is something, it is now already here, but it's very futuristic. And I think, as always, IESE has helped us to put our mind in what is coming so that we can prepare for the next future.
And Stephen, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about this morning when they were talking about the use of AI in healthcare and how that's really transforming healthcare and individualizing healthcare. And I just think there's so many applications for AI, and to hear about it from leading professionals in the field, I think is really beneficial.
And on top of the academic portion of the program, of course, there's also, we're in Munich shortly after Oktoberfest wrapped up. The idea is to have fun with old friends, old classmates. What are the plans for parties, dinners? How are you guys going to really enjoy getting back together, Manuel?
Well, we have met since yesterday with our classmates of the program that we finished 20 years ago. And today we are going to have a special dinner for the Gembas. And we are going to celebrate our 20th anniversary. And for the people that comes from a business school like IESE, networking is very important to keep in touch with your classmates and to meet other people from other generations that you can learn from them, you can make networking, and maybe in the future, why not to do some business also.
And Stephen?
Yeah, I think we have the dinner tonight, and one of the interesting things will be we were the first class, so we were the pioneers, and we graduated 20 years ago. And a lot of the attendees are just graduated 3 days ago, so they'll be at the dinner tonight as well. So it'll be really interesting to compare stories and talk about our experiences.
Very cool. And looking forward to the next 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 years, what else do you have planned? How do you guys intend to stay in touch and keep this bond going, and also bond with more recent classes?
Yeah, well, I think we have to take advantage of these events every year, try to come as much as possible, and also to invite our colleagues to join the programs. And I think we may have 10 or 15 years ahead to continue working and doing networking with our business school classmates.
Stephen?
Yeah, I agree. I think the school does a great job of creating these opportunities for us to be together, and we just have to take advantage of it. We have to try to attend more of these events and spread the word.
Very good. Well, that's about all the time we have with Manuel and Stephen. Thank you so much both for being here. We hope you enjoy the rest of the academic program. There's a lot going on, and that you have some fun tonight in Munich and keep those bonds going. Cool. Now we are going to bring our audience to a very short commercial break, and we'll be back with you soon.
Hi, we're back on the set here at the Science Center in Munich. We're live talking to people who have logged on to our hub, the platform from the Alumni Association, as well as people logging in from Instagram and LinkedIn. So we have a lot of people watching us online. The people who are live here in Munich are finishing up their lunch and drinking coffee. And I think, Mallory, you prepared something kind of special for the guys, is that right?
I have. So when you think of AI, Mike, what do you think of? Do you think of numbers?
I think of accounts payable, because I just got finished talking to Sahil, yeah?
But what if I told you that it could also be used for making art?
I would find that disturbing.
Disturbing. Okay, it could be interesting. I mean, if AI can create art, and it's something that we associate with humans.
My sister's a costume designer. I'm not sure she would like to be, to even think about it. But anyway.
But do you think AI can do art?
I've heard about it. I've heard about DALL-E and some other applications which seem to be able to do it. But I think you've got one ready for us, right?
Yeah. So shall we explore and play for a bit?
Yeah. What you got?
Okay. So tell me something. Give me something. Let's see what this can do.
Something, and you're gonna
anything.
And the machine's gonna make it a unicorn in Oktoberfest. I don't know. So you're typing in a unicorn in Oktoberfest, and the system
computer
is going to work on that, I guess.
And let's see what it does.
I think you have to click on something. Oh, we get to see it. It's thinking about it, and then it's 100% ready. There's
a unicorn in Oktoberfest.
Well, there you go. I don't know if there are any unicorns in Oktoberfest.
But it's done it. So maybe this was a bit easy. Should we try and make it a bit more specific?
All right, why don't you give the unicorn a beer?
Okay.
Get a unicorn in Oktoberfest drinking beer, because that's what people do in Oktoberfest.
A unicorn in Oktoberfest drinking.
And I guess what the system's doing is it's taking a unicorn, it's taking a picture of Oktoberfest, putting them together, and with some kind of logic, it's going to make it look nice. Oh.
And there we have it.
And there we have a unicorn. It's a purple unicorn.
It's a purple and blue-haired unicorn.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there's lots of them in Oktoberfest. Who knows? Who knows?
I mean, the question I have on Mallory is, just because we can do this stuff, should we do this stuff?
That's a key question, Mike, because as you said, it raises a lot of issues around what do we want AI to be for? And it raises a lot of these ethical issues. And I believe now we might actually have a video from Joan Fontadonna, who's raising these very issues right now. Let's go to it.
When we look at the relation between technology or techniques and ethics, we see that they look at the reality in different ways, different focus. Technology looks at the hows, and ethics looks at the whys. A big question there is, shall we do everything that is technically possible or not? When technique is used in favor and not against the human being, then we can consider that something that is technically possible also can be ethically acceptable. Otherwise, maybe we should refrain ourselves because of the ethical concerns that this brings into the discussion. So what are the ethical principles that come into the discussion when we face those challenges nowadays? The first one clearly is the respect of the human dignity, which means that all these systems have to act in favor of the human dignity. The second principle is freedom. The AI systems have to respect and promote freedom. The third principle is justice, for different reasons or in different aspects. One is the access. Not everybody has the access to the same systems. And sometimes there is a discussion whether these artificial intelligence systems provoke more division and more inequality among people. There is a huge discussion nowadays on the question of the transhumanism. Shall we use the power of artificial intelligence to create a new species that is going to be better than the human being, or shall we limit ourselves doing that because this is interfering too much? We need to make a trade-off, and this trade-off is made not by technology, but by ethics.
video, we're now actually here with a live debate with 3 of our alumni who are here to discuss these ethical issues more in depth. So I have here Manuel Abellón, who is EMBA 2016, and he's an industry executive from Higher Education Spain, Microsoft. Welcome. I also have Silvia de Mata, who's PDG 22, and she's the CIO of Group Innovalia.
Innovalia, yeah.
Well. Thank you. And finally, we have Fabio Rodriguez, who is an MBA from 2017 and the Partner Manager and Strategic Alliances at Yokoi Group. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So first of all, let's start with some questions. So you just saw the video. AI, clearly a revolution is going to happen soon with AI. But just because we can do something, should we do it? How do you see AI, and what maybe should we do with AI or not?
Well, my company, for instance, is doing a lot of things in education, for instance, not from a product perspective, with solutions, for instance, for reading assistant for the small children, and for higher education, for instance, with a solution called Career Coach, using artificial intelligence, being able to, based on the CV of the student and their profile, being able to recommend skilling, being able to recommend which positions they can go into the market and which people they need to connect to reach those positions. And also, we have a platform in the cloud that companies can use to, in the case of universities, can use to develop solutions based on AI. But of course, universities and companies are concerned about privacy, and we have a lot of concerns.
Manuel, is there anything that Microsoft won't do? Is there any business that you said, oh, we could do that, but we're not going to do it because it's a bad idea and it's not good for people? Or will you guys do anything to build your business using this technology?
Using, sorry?
Is there anything you won't do? Or well, is it whatever we can do, we will do because it's good for business and it's good for our customers?
Well, we have strong ethical principles, and regarding AI, we have a principle of responsible AI with committees. All employees take a lot of training regarding privacy, regarding compliance issues. And if we see that the business can put our in risk our reputation, or can put also at risk customers' reputation or privacy, we will not go into that.
Okay. So now I have a question for all of you. Do you know of any regulations or committees on AI in your country, in your companies that you are using? Maybe we'll go to you, Fabio, first.
Well, I can talk about my previous company.
Sure.
I was working for an Israeli unicorn, and it was working on the healthcare sector. Basically, it was through AI, it was allowing people that were blind or visually impaired to read stuff, recognize faces, and so on. And there was definitely a privacy concern in there, because, for example, I'm a blind person, I get the bank statement and I'm reading it. So it has all my personal information. So obviously all our customers, our stakeholders were asking, what do we do with this information? So in this case, we had to literally destroy it. So it was, you read the information, but the second after, it's gone. So I think that it is true that you so many use cases of AI that when you see it in real life, you have to twist them to make sure that you don't go into further trouble.
Totally, that's a really good example there.
Yeah, we work a lot in digitalization for manufacturing companies. So we find something a bit like the same. We do analytics and data analytics, and a lot of the information that the companies own will not be transferred later on or used by others. So that could be one of the limitations. We're also looking for data standards within the industrial, the European industrial sector. There's even there's a program, an association looking for those standards, because we don't have this interaction standard so far. So it's IESE, and it's working in that direction. But otherwise, not so clear standards, so clear right now, or we don't have sufficient regulation because it's so brand new, and the usage of AI is so brand new in most of our areas of work, that it's more about mixing them with what we already know. So some GDPR or privacy content regulations, but not so much on AI itself.
Okay, interesting. And Manuel, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yes, as I was saying, my customers, they are concerned with privacy, and one of the measures, of course, we take a lot of measures as well, but one of the measures they are taking is they are decoupling personal data from the algorithms, from the artificial intelligence itself. So what they are doing is anonymizing data. So if the algorithms are managing personal data, there is not a link in the algorithm to the actual person. That link is kept elsewhere at the customer premises. So the algorithm is managing a different type of data that is being previously transformed to decouple that link to preserve privacy.
Okay, great. Now I think we have a video interview question for you. Let's see it.
One of the questions that people raise is that should we do this? Is this good for our well-being and our societies? The technology is progressing, people are studying it, people are doing business models, and those who progress first will get advantage over those who come later. We cannot simply put this back in the bottle. This will not go, we cannot roll back the clock and go back in time. This is moving forward. So either we move and develop and learn to live with that technology, or we simply regulate it out of existence or sort of severely constrain it while other countries go ahead and do it.
The Samsa's comment, which is, is this stuff really good for society, or are we going to put millions of people out of work? We're going to, get dumb because we're using phones instead of talking to each other, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, I think there will be some roles or some skills that will not be used later on as much as they're used right now. But the potential that AI will bring in the different areas or sectors will also produce or we will need new skills and new people. The problem might be that we might need more specialized skills, and we would need to upscale all those people out there with previous university degrees, that they might need to be more specialized in certain AI usage.
And I think what we've seen in other technological transitions is many of those men and women don't make the transition personally, although maybe their children or their nephews and nieces do. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Gentlemen?
I totally agree with Sylvia. Like in the case of Yoko, of course, we are liberating a lot of time for finance departments. So we are giving them less work so they can focus on other matters. And then you might say, okay, we are creating also new jobs that perhaps a few years ago they were not existing because, of course, a lot of technical capabilities to run the AI.
I asked Phil that question. I'm not sure I believe his answer. He says that nobody fires anybody from the accounts payable department after implementing. I'm not sure I believe that.
Trust us, trust us.
Trust us, trust you. Okay, okay. And Manuel, should I trust you too?
Well,
We're like the good cop, bad cop here, yeah?
Yeah, I believe this is like another step in the industrial revolution, and with other industrial revolutions, there are going to be jobs that will disappear, others that will be transformed, and new jobs will come up, as Silvia and Fabio were saying. And as they were mentioning as well, then that will mean that workers will need to be reskilled. And what is changing now is the speed of things happening. Like the times that a worker will have to be reskilled throughout his career is going to increase. So that's a challenge that we need to face in the future.
Mallory, maybe we skip to the third video question. Can we do that? Guys, can we play the one from Maria Gené and then go to the second video question last?
I was going to reach general artificial intelligence, the moment of singularity, the moment when machines are going to surpass the intelligence of a human being. Intelligence has several dimensions. Perception, we did a lot of advancement there. Learning, no question about that, but we need to do a lot of progress in reasoning, how machines are reasoning, and also how machines are able to abstract. So, with the current technology, putting more computation put in more data, we are not going to reach singularity. However, we cannot rule out some breakthroughs in artificial intelligence that maybe can happen tomorrow, or maybe in 10 years, or maybe never, that if these things happen, then maybe we're going to reach that singularity.
So guys, what do you think? Do you think machines will surpass human intelligence soon?
Well,
I was going to say, depends which type of human intelligence. but yeah, well, I think it might happen to certain, as we've heard today in the speech, that there are certain things that the human beings might not be able to do as good or as well as the machines can do. And the human being, from my point of view, would always be there, and we should be able to get the best of the analysis or the management and so on. All those ideas, like I think was this chatbot or this engine that was able to have more intelligence, or was it feelings that we've heard? I don't know to what extent that might be possible, but I think we're not yet there. Maybe I will die before that. I don't know, but.
Well, I think in some aspects of intelligence, artificial intelligence will surpass humans. That's a fact we are facing right now. It is clear that the capability of processing millions of data is there, and humans cannot do that. But things like emotional thinking, abstract thinking, it's very important. And as I mentioned in the speeches, humans have evolved by socializing, by forming groups that can solve problems together, and that capability of emotional relationship with other humans and interconnecting things, that's something that I think artificial intelligence is not there yet, and will not be there yet in the near future.
So Fabio, what's your thoughts? Even if it's not here soon, do you think that machines can?
Well, I think in all the talks we're seeing that innovation is going so exponentially. So I think many of the topics we are discussing now, 5-10 years ago, we will think is science fiction. And probably 10 years down the road, when there's a new guy from IESE, we're going to be talking about things that we cannot imagine right now. But I guess maybe something like the 80-20 rule. So probably 80% of processes can be automated, and in a way machines can do it better, but I think there's always going to be a part of the process that you're going to meet some human interaction. So I think obviously moving forward more things are going to be automated, but I don't think we're going to reach a point where everything is done by machines. So I think we don't have to panic. We're all going to have works. We might have to change a little bit the scope of our work, but I think AI is going to be good. It's going to make our lives easier, and it's going to allow us to reach new heights.
That's an interesting point. You said AI is going to be good and make our lives easier. Do you not see any downsides?
Of course. I think always that there's a new innovation, there's some people that are skeptical, or things go so fast that I think in terms of regulations, for example, it's really hard to regulate all these new innovations. So for sure, there's going to be some threats, and I think we will make some mistakes. But I think long time, is going to be for good, and then ideally we can spot the applications where we thought AI will be fine, but for whatever reason it's not working, so we just can't get rid of that.
So Silvia, do you have any thoughts on the potential downsides?
I'm quite positive, I must say. I do think that there could be downsides, as you've said, in terms of how people use the outcomes of the AI. So if we, for example, if we are hackers and we are using the AI as a way to get more information and know better how we can get into a security system or something, then that's a bad or a downside on the AI, because we'll be able also to spot the weakest points of our enemy or the area where we want to go to. But well used, it can be improved processes, production, well-being, health. I mean, there's so many ways of using it in a good way. But as Flavio has said, we need to look for regulations so that we can also make it in a proper way so that we don't face those severe downstream.
Excuse me, Mallory, they tell me we got about 2 or 3 more minutes. The The last question we wanted to ask is about inequality, and we don't need the video to explain it, but as people get upskilled, as we upskill people, there'll be winners and losers in this, and lower skilled people will be replaced by machines or by algorithms, and higher skilled people will be programming and running those machines, and we've seen this in manufacturing already. Is AI going to create more inequality in the world?
Quality? What type
Inequality,
of
economic
inequality?
inequality.
Okay. I mean, I do think that most of the new jobs will be directed to people who have been studying. So in a way, but I think but what I mean is the type of way or the type of studies will be different, because at least in Spain we've been covering very generic type of studies, and I foresee youngsters going more into more specific, specialized MSCs or masters and so on. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to be very well paid, but
gentlemen, what do you think?
I am more concerned actually about the inequality that could create some discrimination done by AI, by the algorithms, by the decision.
You guys are trying so hard to avoid.
And sometimes it can be not even an intentional discrimination, but unintentional, because AI is relying on past data, and this past data can have biases, and sometimes those biases are difficult to detect. So maybe in the future somebody could have a loan denied or a grant denied or a job denied based on AI, and whether that decision is fair or not, that's something that we need to concern about, and because that can create inequality.
I think probably there has to be a change in high school, in like the sort of more formal education, because reality is that there's going to be demand of new skills. So I think we have to fix this first, and then 5-10 years, we're going to have new students of 16, 18 that are going to have a different mindset and are probably going to be able to join the workforce doing, again, jobs that maybe 10, 20 years ago we couldn't have imagined.
Silvio, Fabio, Manuel, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to go now on this issue of humans, and we're going to hear from Maria Gené, one of the academic directors of the program today. Can we go to the video?
AI will be profoundly transformative because we are entering an era of industrialization of knowledge production. Over the last decade, many new jobs have been created, many new job descriptions. And we know that firms that adopt AI are firms that at the same time have job descriptions that change more frequently. So it could be associated with a higher level of dynamism in the workflow. AI will tackle those tasks that are cognitive and routine. And AI will be much more efficient than us, humans, to actually deliver better predictions. Prediction is at the core of decision making. And this is why it may be scary for us, because it goes to the core of our nature. It may lead to changes in the strategy. And it opens as well a strategic reflection. Question number one, what is really the core trade-off in your organization? The second question would be, what type of uncertainty is at the core of this trade-off? And the third element would be, can AI resolve this uncertainty and potentially tip this trade-off? So imagine that you could reduce completely the uncertainty of the most important strategic decision in your corporation. If that would be the case, then how would you shape your business?
Intentando no coffee or something.
One does not learn to make better decisions by simply deciding many times, by making plenty of decisions, but by enriching the quality of your judgment. Case method is placing the participant at the center of a decision, and you have a set of partial, incomplete, and perhaps inaccurate information. And we really want you to empathize with the decision maker, put yourself in their feet, and think, what would you do?
You spend a lot of time putting yourself in the shoes of the guy that you are representing. You just learn much faster because you've been discussing firsthand that problem or that solution.
So we're back on the set here at the Science Center in Munich. It's really my pleasure to welcome Dr. Maria Marced to the program. She is the president of TSMC Europe. If you don't pay attention to these things, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation makes about 55% of the microchips for the planet. So this is a very important company. It's, we all suffered some shortages as we came back. A lot of that was because the customers of TSMC didn't really tell them what they were going to need, and they were surprised, I think. Anyway, that's a whole other story. We also have Maria Gené, a full professor, a tenured professor at IESE Business School. Congratulations for that, who's also one of our academic directors of the program. Maria, if you don't mind, I'll start with you. And you worked, you're at TSMC now, the head of EMEA. You're the chairwoman of the EMEA Leadership Council on the GSA Semiconductor Alliance. But you've also spent a lot of time at Philips and Intel. Can you, what's the difference between, say, Intel, Philips, and TSMC, and how do you define yourself?
Well, I was with Intel 20 years, and Intel really is a great business school. Well, Andy Grove was the main CEO I have during my 20 years, and Andy Grove was really, unfortunately, he passed away, was really a great business leader. Books like The Paranoia Only the Paranoia Survives, or How to Better Manage Companies. Intel was really where I did my MBA and my PhD and everything.
20-year MBA, I guess.
20 years MBA, that's very right. And not only on semiconductors. I remember introducing the Intel Inside program, which is a branding program in Europe as well, and doing retail for Intel, and Intel was really a big, great business school.
Okay, I want to come back to AI in a minute, but I can't resist talking to a senior executive at TSMC. We have this invasion of Russia and Ukraine. I understand that President Putin phoned President Xi just before the invasion to make sure it was okay with him. My guess is he said something like, okay, Vladimir, you can do what you want, but if I ever move on Taiwan, I'm going to expect you to support me. Do they worry about China in TSMC? Because, Mr. Xi talks about history and he talks about the manifest destiny of the Chinese people, but some people think that the reason he wants to invade Taiwan is to take over your company.
Well, certainly TSMC is at the center of unleashing all the innovation in the world. There is no doubt about it.
Because you guys are the only ones who do 3mm chips, and
we do very tiny things.
3 nanometer chips.
Still, very relevant things.
Very advanced.
Very advanced.
Very advanced. That's the problem.
I always say that the semiconductors are the oil of the digital era. Unfortunately, we cannot solve the energy problem, but we solve other problems. So now, China. Well, our position is we want to be everybody's foundry. For many very little companies to very big companies, from Asia companies to American companies. However, we also completely follow every regulation, every law. We understand that there are now tensions between, I would say, not only around US and China, but I would say between the democratic world and the non-democratic world. And I think the democratic world is going to get aligned in order to reframe the non-democratic world to make advantages.
Now, in a geopolitical sense, there's also these projects to build foundries all over the world. I'm not sure if they're actually going to happen, but there's been a lot of political announcements of building different foundries and different people.
We have announced a very advanced fab in Arizona. Actually, the opening is going to be next month in Phoenix. It's going to be a 5 nanometers, initially 5 nanometers fab, so very, very advanced. It will move later on probably to 3 nanometers. And we are exploring the possibility of doing something in Europe as well. We have.
I imagine that takes a lot of your time.
This is my project.
Now to go back to AI, because AI is really the topic. I just couldn't not ask about those things. Are you working on AI chips, or will AI always be software, which uses a bunch of chips and a bunch of servers and a bunch of machines, where it's going to be the programmers building the AI, and you guys are going to build the oil to make it work, or are you actually going to put AI onto a chip?
It's a very good question, because let me clarify, we do not have our own products. We are a pure play foundry.
Pure fab.
So this means we produce chips for NVIDIA, for Intel even, for Qualcomm, for Broadcom, for everybody. So we don't produce chips for AI. Our customers do design chips that we produce, we manufacture for them for AI.
Now, do you use AI to manufacture the chips?
Absolutely. Getting into 2 nanometers, for instance, 3 nanometers, 2 nanometers.
Does 2 nanometers exist?
2 nanometers we are in the pathfinding of 2 nanometers. It will come. It will come. But 3 nanometers, we have started already production. In order to optimize the quality and get to what we call 0 defects quickly, you really need to use artificial intelligence. You really need to use big data in order to prevent issues, to improve quality, to improve yields. This is absolutely crucial. So we use a lot of AI.
And since you're the foundry making other people's chips, do you ever worry about what some of these chips can be used for? Is that on the list of things to think about?
Yeah. We always check for every customer, every product we manufacture. We check whether what is going to be the use, and we check whether they are in the blacklist of any country. Absolutely. Integrity is one of our key values, and this means that we will always observe and follow the regulations of every country.
And having spent so many years in this business, Maria, what is your view of AI? Is it all good, like some of our guests, or is there a dark side to it? Where do you think this stuff is going, just as someone who's been in this industry for so long?
I think the technology is never bad per se. The usage of the technology is what we can debate whether it's going to be good or it's going to be bad. And then it has to be regulated. And it has to be regulated and cannot be regulated by the governments, because they don't understand really AI and they don't understand technology. Companies have to get involved in those regulations.
But let me go back to your earlier comment about the democratic world and China and Russia, because we could pass legislation, GDPR, similar stuff here in Europe. The Americans probably will do less, and the Chinese will do what the Chinese do.
Yeah.
Does that give perhaps a competitive disadvantage to companies which are playing in a regulated playing field against, say, Tencent and Alibaba and Telegram, who might be living in some kind of Wild West?
Another great question. AI, of course, is built on hardware, on chips, and then you have a lot of algorithms, a lot of code of software. The issue is that China cannot make progress on advanced semiconductors because it has been prevented by law to deliver tools and to deliver chips, advanced chips to China. So they have a limitation. They cannot move beyond a given technology, which is now quite mature technology. This will be the 14 nanometers.
14 nanometers, which is a lot bigger than 3.
Much bigger.
Uses a lot more power.
And going beyond 14 nanometers is not going to be allowed for them for quite a long time. So they are going to have a disadvantage on the foundation of the horsepower they are going to use for AI.
Maria, thank you so much for joining us. I'm told that you have to run. I'm supposed to go to Billy Gray, who's at lunch with the participants here live in Munich, and then we'll come back with Maria Gené to ask her some more questions. So let's go to Billy Gray, who's live at lunch. Billy, are you there?
One does not learn to make better decisions by simply deciding many times, by making plenty of decisions, but by enriching the quality of your judgment. CASE method is placing the participant at the center of a decision, and you have a set of partial, incomplete, and perhaps inaccurate information. And we really want you to empathize with the decision maker, put yourself in their feet, and think, what would you do?
You spend a lot of time putting yourself in the shoes of the guy that you are representing. You just learn much faster because you've been discussing firsthand that problem or that solution.
And we're back on the set. I'm sorry, we seem to have lost the connection with Billy Gray at lunch. I guess there's a lot of people and a lot of cell phones or something causing interference. But I'm here with Mireia Janet. Mireia, you heard Maria, this is getting confusing, Mireia and Maria, but you heard Maria talking about regulation. Maybe Europe will be in a different place than the US, which will be a different place than China and other parts of the world. What do you think about that?
I think that an interesting idea has been to see that there are different frameworks. Opportunity framework probably coming from the US, regulatory framework coming from the EU. And that is going to have differential impact in the way we speed up innovation. So the more regulation you put, we are going to move slower, but more surely, trying to figure out some outcomes that we feel are aligned with our values.
And you talk a lot about values. You talk a lot about putting people at the heart of this. And I think you're one of the folks who came up with this idea of use your power for good.
Yes.
So is the regulation positive, or is the regulation, where do you come out on this? It's a little bit hard to tell.
It's hard to tell. It is hard to tell. It's very hard to regulate AI. As you have said, this is a global problem. We are gonna, if we regulate more, we are gonna slow down the process of innovation. That we have to be aware that there's gonna be that trade-off. On the pluses, we're gonna try to ensure that the outcomes are aligned with having people at the core. What does it mean? Respecting their information, their personal information, respecting the processes. We've been talking about AI being a black box, so there's lack of explainability. There are many areas where we cannot use AI simply because we are unsure if it's going to generate bias. Let me give you an example. So very simple for applications in finance. Giving credit, you cannot risk giving having an application that enhances past biases.
Sure. So what you're saying is if for 30 years loan officers were not lending money to minorities or women, if you look at that data over time, the AIs will never lend money to minorities or women because that's what the data says.
Exactly. So they will be replicating the biases that you contain in the data that are the responses of historic decision making, a reflection.
And if you have humans coding the data, maybe you can overcome it. But if you let the machines code their own data,
well, there are issues. There are ways for cleaning the data and trying to have a debiased, if we wish, database. But yeah, this is going to be part of the regulation, how much you ensure that the data that you are using has compliance at that level.
Okay, let me go back to some of your own stuff. You talk a lot about the industrialization of knowledge production. What does that mean?
Okay, so you can think of applications of AI as an additional layer of industrialization, in the same way that prior industrialization was to automate certain processes. Now we're going to automate cognitive processes. We are going to have algorithms that are going to substitute things that are cognitively very exhausting. And as humans have tons of limitations, right? We are lazy, we are tired, we can't work 24/7, we have biases, we have emotions.
But when you talk about knowledge production, do you talk about peer-reviewed papers? Do you talk about books? Do you talk about newspaper articles?
No, we talk about...
That's the stuff that we do.
Yes, yes. No, so we talk about the forces that allow organizations to take better decisions. Meaning that up until now, we have been with processes that were very manual in the use of data, and now those processes are being industrialized.
Fantastic. Well, to keep talking about industrialization, thank you, Mireia Gené. We have a video, I think, from my colleague Mark Sachon. Can we go to the video?
Artificial intelligence and manufacturing are a perfect fit, because in manufacturing, we tend to produce many, many identical parts and products, which generates huge amounts of data, which in turn can then be fed into the artificial intelligence algorithms and thereby help them to learn, improve, identify problems and process optimizations. Currently, there are many, many projects, experiments going on in the manufacturing sector. And of course, one of the areas where you see this a lot is the automotive sector. We talk about matrix production systems, where basically we do not have anymore the typical century-old linear production system, production line. Instead, we have basically the products, the cars in this case, being put onto a pod, and the pod moves through the factory in a way that is optimized for this specific product, especially when you go to products or cars in the high segment, where each car is completely different from the next car. And therefore, a linear production sequence doesn't make a lot of sense. So this is not future science fiction, this is happening today already. A perfect example of the use of artificial intelligence in manufacturing are robotics. Right now, you need about 2 weeks of highly paid engineers to optimize the robots so that they can really do what they need to do. In the future, we'll have robots that do this by themselves. They will see how, let's say, the welding points are done, compare it to what they should be doing, and then learn and improve. There will be perhaps one engineer to overlook all of this, but the robots will learn by themselves using artificial intelligence.
So welcome back to the TV show, and we have some more great guests for you. I'm here with Dr. Ling Ji, who's General Manager and Chief European Representative at Tencent, and I'm also here with Professor Evgeny Kagina, Professor in the Department of Operations, Information and Technology at IESE Business School. Welcome.
Thank you, Mallory.
Thank you. So first off, Ling, as the Chief European Representative at Tencent, one of the world's largest technology companies and investors, what are the main challenges for you right now with AI?
With AI?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of the
or your challenges in general?
Yeah, I think some of the things Dr. Oliver Bloom, the CEO of Volkswagen and Porsche, mentioned last night at dinner actually resonated me a lot. So the things we can't influence ourselves, for example, the geopolitics backdrop and some of the macroeconomic challenges. And in this tough situation, how do we help our investee companies to navigate the tough fundraising environment? And how do we acquire and return talent and help inspire them to all work for a common vision?
Yeah, and Evgeny, you recently wrote an article called "Why All Companies Need a Data Experience Designer." Can you tell us a bit about this new role?
It's interesting that you brought it up. We actually wrote the paper back in 2014, and the main argument was fairly simple, and the interesting thing that it still holds today. The main argument was the following. When we talk about AI, or at the time we were talking about data, there was a lot of emphasis on data science and developing the infrastructure and hiring data scientists and so on and so forth, which is an important challenge, but it's actually not perhaps the main challenge. The main challenge is that even when you have the algorithms, when you have the analytics, unless you have a critical mass of your employees throughout the company who have the skills, who have the capabilities to do something with it, right? For example, to incorporate output of the analytics into the products and services that your company offers, right? Or start making decisions differently, start thinking in terms of conducting experiments. None of this is going to make any impact in your business, right? And that point was overlooked at the time. And in fact, I would argue that this point is being overlooked still today. So today there's a lot of conversation about citizen data scientists. So it's a little bit in this direction. You have to start working with a much broader population of your employees if you want AI to make a difference.
Yeah, interesting. So you've both talked a little bit about challenges that companies are facing, challenges that you're seeing also with how to deal with things outside your control. So Ling, you're a scientist. So how do you see that connection with quantum computing? Can you explain a little bit about that and perhaps how it can relate to tackling some of these issues?
Yes, sure. I think quantum computing, people need to remember two fundamental concepts. One is quantum superposition. The other is quantum entanglement. And with quantum superposition, it means, in analogy to classical computing, there is 0 and 1 as classical bits. And the quantum bit could be anything between 0 and 1 all at once. And then quantum entanglement is this spooky property. One particle and another can relate to each other no matter how far they are apart. And then both these fundamental properties contribute to quantum computing's exponential computing power. And lots of the applications people are talking about are about cryptography or how to model data for financial services. I may have a contrarian view, but I feel the most interesting applications would be more following a simple principle. Nature is quantum. So in order to model nature, we really need a quantum computer. And one particular example I'm really excited about is drug design. Lots of big pharma, as well as our team in Tencent, they are working on protein folding using quantum algorithms and potentially predict antibody structures and how antibodies and the target molecules can bind together.
Wow, that's fascinating. I never thought of that. So nature, quantum helps with the nature. That's great. So also going back a bit, Evgeny, you've been exploring the role of AI and data network effects for creating user value. Can you tell us how does that work?
So you're not asking easy questions, right? You're asking to explain concepts in 30 seconds. That's okay. So once again, the idea is actually quite simple. There's been a lot of conversation in the last 10 years, I would say, about platforms as new business models, and we experience them every day in our life, from Uber to Facebook to to an app store, right? And the core concept in platform competition is that as you accumulate more users, right, as a platform on different sides, like drivers and riders, for example, in the case of Uber, the value that the platform creates for the users increases, right? So we actually started looking into how does data and AI play into this, right? Because it's not just the number of users, but it's the volume of the data that a company accumulates, right? And it's actually what it can do with that data in terms of improving products and services that it brings to its customers, right? And what we found was that this relationship is non-linear, it's exponential, right? The greater your ability to learn from the data that you collect, and the greater your ability to integrate the outcomes of that learning into products and services that you bring to your customers, the more the value that you create, and therefore you can compete differently. And really what we believe now is that if network effects, what I described before, was a core concept to understand how platforms compete, data network effects will be the core concept to understand how ecosystems compete, right? And talking about Tencent is a classic example of an end user ecosystem, right? And for them, data network effects across the different areas of how they facilitate user life is very, very important.
Great. So one last question. So Ling, which transformations do you think will come first?
Last week, our founder CEO, Pony Ma, proposed a very interesting concept, which we are very excited about. It's called immersive convergence. And within that, I think it ties lots of exciting development together. I think some of the technologies are already here, like blockchain technology, XR, and some of the vertical farming, they're at least at the proof of concept phase. So in the next 10 years, we will see these technologies mature. And to look further, in 2040, maybe we will see some of the more groundbreaking technologies like quantum computing, nuclear fusion, or Internet of Living Things to realize and come to our life, which we will cover in the session.
Wow, so there's lots to look forward to soon. And both of you will be seeing you soon on the main stage, just coming up, talking about tech for good. So be sure to check that out. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.